Everyone right now is praising this film, from IMDb to Letterboxd to YouTube. Everybody is giving this film 4 and 5 stars. And I'm here to tell you guys that I completely disagree, and I think this film really sucks. Directed by Luca Guadagnino, and I've seen one of his other films before, Bones and All, and I did not like that film at all. I thought it absolutely sucked. This film, it stars Zendaya, Mike Faist, and Josh O'Connor, and it's about a former tennis player named Tashi who's training her husband after he is on a losing streak, and he's trying to get back into this tournament, and he has to face a former tennis player that he knows very well. Now, going into the movie, the trailer to me, it seemed alright. I wasn't expecting any Oscar-worthy performances, but I was just hoping this film would be half decent, and unfortunately this film was really bad. Now, I do want to go into the positives before I go into my negatives for this film. I do think the chemistry between the two male leads are pretty good. They do a pretty good job of building the story. They show them when they're in doubles and then when they're also in single matches as well. Their downfalls, their ups, their downs, all that kind of stuff within the tennis realm. They do a really good job of doing that. And when they're having these tennis matches, you see the emotion, you see them hitting the ball really hard or grunting or just really getting into the match and really just embracing the competition that they're actually in. And when you hear the ball actually hit off the racket, you hear it like you're actually there in the match. And it's just really cool to actually see that kind of action, the sweat dripping. And when they get frustrated, they actually slam down their rackets. That kind of thing is really cool. And some of the actual camera shots during these matches are very unique and a little bit different. Some POV shots and different kinds of things that you see that is a little bit different in a tennis realm. And if you don't really know much about tennis, there's a little bit of explaining of that as well. Now we get into the negatives, and if you've seen the trailer for this film, you know that Zendaya is vying for attention from both these two male leads. Now, it's supposed to be this sexy, crazy love triangle story in which they advertise, but within 15 to 20 minutes of this film, they already tell you where she's at in her current life, who she's with, and where she's already ended up. We go into a lot of time jumps in this film. This film jumps from 13 years later to 5 years earlier to a few moments later. There's more time jumps in this film than there is in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and a lot of times when you're going through the time jumps, you honestly don't really know exactly what part of the time period you're actually at. They may tell you on screen, but it can be a little bit difficult if you just miss that part. You can't really have any emotion towards the characters. They'll have certain scenes where there's an emotional scene, and they'll completely drown it out and hurry up and jump to the next time loop, so you can't even feel emotions towards the characters in certain scenes in the certain predicament of that certain time loop that they're actually showing the audience. The music in here is turned up way too loud. I don't know who looked at this film and said, yeah, this is great, they're gonna love this music, but they literally turn up the music so freaking loud in this that when characters are actually trying to say their lines, the freaking music is turned up way too loud. And I first noticed this when they were actually on the beach. They have this piano song and the piano is turned up way too loud. That should be a soft kind of music right there. That could be a little bit in the background, but it didn't need to be turned up so freaking loud. There are many scenes of that as well, because this film is supposed to be sexy, right? Now there's only about 3 little sexy kind of scenes involving Zendaya and these guys. The first scene you obviously know because you've seen the trailer where she's on the bed and she lays back. And they obviously have that scene there, and they have some music there, but the music there isn't as loud. But then there's 2 other scenes where she's actually making love with these guys. And one of the scenes involves her actually fighting with one of the guys. She's in the bed, she's straddling this guy, and they start playing this techno music, thumping it, boom, 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 boom. And they actually are fighting during this scene, and you can't understand anything they're saying because the music is so damn loud. They do this throughout the film so much. There's another lovemaking scene where she's fighting with one of the guys, and they actually make out during the scene, and it's a weird, awkward scene because they're arguing, they're fighting, then they throw in the techno music again, and there's this weird windstorm with a bunch of newspapers. It's really over the top, and I was just like, this is terrible. And they have the scene where they're actually making out. Before that, though, she spits in his face, and then they thump on this choir boy music. I was like, what the hell? There's choir music in this? The music here is all over the place, and a lot of times in here, it just feels like they just said, you know what? We can't have it quiet here. We can't let the scene actually play out. We have to have some thumping music. There's even a scene when they're actually in the sauna. Both guys are actually talking and they have the rave music going on. And I think they were trying to go more of the route of maybe a theme song for either one of those guys. But at the same time, why do you need rave music thumping so loud that you can't even understand what the characters are actually saying? And one last example that I want to give is there's another scene where Zendaya is fighting with one of the guys and they play this French song. Now there's a part obviously where they actually argue, and again you can barely understand what they're saying, but then they actually go through this emotional scene where she walks out of the bedroom, the camera actually follows her, they're still playing this loud French music, they cut to the next scene and then they cut back, but they actually take away emotion from Zendaya. And I think a lot of times in this film, when she actually has those moments where she's actually feeling emotion, they just cut away too quickly, or you can't really feel the emotion of the characters. And I just didn't like that. I just felt like there were a lot of times in here where the director was like, oh shit, it's too quiet, throw on a song. You have to have a song here because it just feels like dead air. And you didn't need to do that. Let the film breathe a little bit. Let us feel the emotions of the characters. Let us feel the pain that they have, or if they're happy, or whatever emotion they have, let us, the audience, feel it. And I felt a lot of times during this film, I never really felt any emotion the characters actually felt. I never could be gripped into the story because the music is such a distraction. Now, I did say that the tennis action in here wasn't bad at times, but there was one scene in which they're having this tennis match in which they make this scene a slow motion scene. I don't know if they thought they were in 300, but we have the sweat dripping down really slowly. We have the ball bouncing really slowly. We have the ball going back and forth between the nets. And what I really didn't like is they throw in that damn techno music again. This director and this composer, maybe they need to start up a rave club, because throughout this film, they just love techno music at any point in time. I just felt like, again, you need the scene to actually breathe. Let's feel the emotions of the players. Let's hear them grunting. Let's hear them actually getting into the match. Maybe actually hear the fans. What do the fans think? Do they feel like this match is going to go either way? Like, what are their emotions? We can't get that because every single time during certain parts of the scene, they'll slow it down, then they'll crank up the techno music, they'll slow it down again, and then they crank up the music again. And they do this about 3 or 4 times, and this scene, it feels like it's about 10-15 minutes. When the film actually ends, there is just a cliffhanger. It just leaves you more questions than actual answers when the film actually started. I felt at times also with these characters, when Zendaya is both with these two male leads, I felt like at times her dialogue was written as if she was a plank of wood. I felt like the chemistry was not there between all three of them. I can't believe that they threw this out and they said this film was going to be a great one. I felt like they did not edit this film. I felt like they didn't care about characters' emotions. They didn't care about connecting certain things within the film. And just some of the music choices. I mean, again, I'm okay with having music in a film, but certain scenes, let the damn characters breathe. Let us feel their fucking emotions. It just pissed me off so much that so many times during this movie, I could never get into the emotions of the characters. The only thing that this film did was challenge my patience. I'm going to give a score of this film a 1 out of 5. This was a terrible experience and terrible to actually sit through. And unfortunately, I hate to sit here and rag on a movie, but I have to tell the truth. I can't say that I sat here and loved this. This is not a 4 or 5 star movie. I will not watch this film again. But I want to hear from you guys. I think most of you guys love this movie. But if you actually agree with me, if you agree with some of these points, let me know. If you loved it, tell me why you loved it. Did you feel it was this sexy movie? Did you feel like you loved the tennis matches? Do you love all the time loops? And hell, did you love the Raven music? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.